Hello, and welcome back to the Liberate Yourself podcast. This is a platform for those of us around the world who are cultivating personal sovereignty in these transitional times to tell our stories of unfolding through metaphysical practices and modalities. My guests and I have conversations around astrology, magic, energy work, psychology, and ascension processes so that you can take what resonates for your own path and feel more connected with the great eon change we are collectively going through. Remember to visit tristadedman.com and click podcast for the show notes, and if you like what you hear, give the podcast a positive review on iTunes. You can also become a supportive patron on the Liberate Yourself Patreon page. In this transmission, I'm joined by the fascinating Ali, who is an evolutionary astrologer from Transylvania, Romania. We get into deep discussion about the moon cycles as the easiest way to get started working with astrology, and how our chart can help us identify and live into our multidimensional selves. We also discuss the astro weather around relational dynamics for the fall of 2018, so be sure to listen all the way through for great tips and in-depth suggestions for how to navigate this season's energy. I really enjoyed the stimulating conversation with my new friend, and I hope you do as well. So let's get to it. All right, well, let's dive right in. Thank you very much for being here, Ali. The reason I was first attracted to your Instagram account and your astrology forecasts is because there's this real ethereal depth to them. Like, it's coming from this very rich, fertile place, I want to say. And I just wanted to know if you want to just sort of introduce yourself, your relationship with astrology, where are you in the world, and start us off that way.
Yeah, sure. So, my name is Ali. Well, I'm an evolutionary astrologer. That's my thing. But I'm relatively new to astrology. I was first I used to have an affinity for this when I was little, but then I lost it growing up because of social circumstances and how society is.
Yes.
And how astrology is shunned by the world, and it's out there. But if you start living with nature and you start living by your seasons and with the moon and with the sun, you inevitably reach astrology.
Yes.
There's no way it calls out to you eventually.
That's what I was going to ask next, is how did astrology find you? Instead of, how did you come into doing astrology? Because I feel like more mystical practices like this end up finding you, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it was a process. It wasn't like from yesterday to today, like snap of a finger.
Totally.
But I was in a point in my life 6 years ago, 2012, that little year, right at the end of it, just as Saturn came into Scorpio. I didn't know it at the time, but I felt it.
Right.
And I was completely and utterly disconnected from anything spiritual. I was practicing pantheism when I was in high school. That slowly turned into animism, every rock has a soul, this place has a soul, everything's living and conscious in its own way. But I remember it was like an late October night, and at the moment of the most spiritual disconnection I've ever felt, I just looked up at the moon. It was at the first quarter, and I was like, why am I not having a relationship with whatever that is? And I said, okay, from this moment onwards, when the moon is waxing, I will just focus on positive aspects I like about myself and try to give those the attention they deserve. And when the moon is waning, just think of things that I don't like anymore, that I don't need anymore, and just release them.
And was that an intuitive direction that you found for yourself? Did that just come to you? Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, yeah. I used to do that with seasons because I was always rather weirded out by the fact that at the beginning of each summer, I get very apathetic and I don't have energy, and I'm way more sensitive than usual when other people go to the beach, have fun, do that cancer thing, find comfort,
Yep.
but I just need isolation at the moment. And I never figured it out. Why do I have so much energy during winter time
Mm-hmm.
and so much low energy summertime?
Mm-hmm.
So I started working with the seasons, in a easily pagan way of, equinoxes, solstices, integrating that in my own life. But I wasn't thinking of sun signs. I wasn't thinking of planets, about anything astrology.
Mm-hmm.
But starting to work with the moon, starting to do this about a year, like every waxing moon, cool. You did this today. That was nice. Try that more. Cool. You talked this to somebody today. You made somebody's day better.
Sure.
Try that more.
Yep.
And then I ate something that I didn't like, waning.
Mm.
Release that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't eat that food anymore. Simple things like that. It doesn't have to be always complex and really soulful.
It's true. I think I probably started bringing it into my life in that way too, just magic in general. I think starting with the moon cycles, the really simple moon cycles, waxing and waning, full moon, new moon, is really the best way and easiest way to go. But yeah, for anyone listening, that's the a really good method. That's also a very Virgoan method, like of tracking things very specifically and collecting the data. Which because you're a
Exactly.
Virgo sun and rising, correct?
Virgo moon and sun.
Oh,
I'm
wonderful. Okay,
I'm a Leo rising.
that's
So
right.
yeah.
That's right. Okay, but yeah, please continue.
Yeah, there's one simple truth about astrology. If you know what the moon does, you'll understand everything.
That's so
Because
true.
the moon makes every aspect in the chart, from the new moon conjunction to the waxing sextile to the first quarter square to the trine to the opposition and then back again, in a month,
Mm-hmm.
and then another month and another month. And if you just work with the moon, you observe and feel, you'll know astrology. It will come to you like very, very easily
And
this way.
it's the most obvious because it's the closest to us and we can visually see it. So it very literally shows up in our lives very in this very obvious way. Like it takes a little bit more self-awareness and meditation and inner work to work with the other planets and to notice their effect on us, but the moon is super obvious. So,
Exactly,
that's a
exactly.
great method to start out with for sure.
Yeah. And I was lucky because I have a lot of female friends.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was working with the moon, a lot of them were like, oh God, the moon's in Cancer right now, so I'm more emotional. Or it's in Sagittarius right now, I'm ready to party, whatever. And I was like, wait, does that, I know now that the moon has something going on there. And let me see if the science stuff actually works.
Yeah.
And I started noticing like when the moon is in Capricorn but waxing, it's way different than when the moon is in Capricorn then waning.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different, same energy but different lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the moment the coin dropped, like, oh, oh wait, oh wait.
There's a system
So
here. There's a formula here.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's that click, that click, and it all went like, oh, as you people think astrology is very archaic and BS voodoo,
Mm-hmm.
but
And
we,
can you elaborate on that real quick because you're in Transylvania, correct?
yeah,
And so
yeah, exactly.
I would like you to kind of speak about what is the climate there as far as like astrology, mysticism, the occult, things like that. Is it just not talked about? Is it completely shunned? Can you kind of enlighten us, for those of us in the rest of the world about it?
Sure, it's not really that different from any place else,
Sure.
but since like 2012, people are starting to talk about more about,
Mm-hmm.
vehicle astrology, Reiki,
That's
yoga,
true. Yeah, you're right. It's
uh,
it's a global.
that side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, you see it more in 20 something, 30 something,
Yeah.
around that age group of people.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of people highly in tune to some really out there like soul energies here. So there's some hot spots in Transylvania
Okay.
in the mountains that are like
Yeah,
multi-dimensional
yeah.
paranormal hotspots,
Very cool.
ancient creepy mountain dark forest stuff like that. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
guess that's why I was asking because especially in the States, we hear Transylvania, it's like, ooh, like, dark, and we think of Dracula and stuff like that. So I guess I was just curious about what, you know, the
Well,
local attitudes are towards mysticism and things like that.
yeah, it's out there for people. The people are open to it, but the problem here in Romania is that the old generation that has gone through the trauma of communism,
Yes.
that generation has a lot of trauma that needs to heal. And though those people born from the 1920s till the 1950s, they've been through some pretty
Mm-hmm.
tough
Yeah.
times. Like they didn't have time to think of anything else. It was just complete ruin.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
there's
epigenetically, your generation, you guys are, I mean, we're all doing this. We're all healing past traumas, past generational traumas, but you guys, even people in their 20s and 30s now, are sort of carrying on that lineage and healing that, I'm sure, transmuting it, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the Pluto in Scorpio generation.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to bring the light to the things people hid from
Yes.
themselves. And you get a very cathartic and raw reaction from other people because they see that you see everything. You see past their facade and you go
Yeah.
straight to where it hurts. Scorpio is like, oh, look at that wound. I'm gonna touch it.
Mm-hmm. Dive right in, yeah.
Dive right
Not
in.
afraid of the dark. Not afraid of the dark
Yeah,
at all. That does free. I hadn't thought about that before, but yeah, the millennial generation, it does. Or I'm sorry, the Pluto and Scorpio generation, which is essentially the same.
exactly.
I think it does. They do have this like uncanny way of making past generations uncomfortable, because they are very like direct gaze into what they were hiding before, and not even that they were consciously hiding, but like I think it has more to do with they were taught to hide things and they were conditioned to keep things at surface level, or you know what I mean, keep things behind a veil still.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And we're here to just say, I see you, I recognize you, there's nothing wrong with you and what happened, and we're here to heal it together collectively. You can't heal that by being at odds and confronting it by just being in opposite sides. You have to open up and let love in.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you can't heal anything. It's the
Right.
only way we can do that. And yeah, it's millennials. You can call it that. It's
Yeah.
from people born from a 1984 to 1995.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, those of us that are in our later 30s, it's the Pluto and Libra generation. I feel like it was kind of our, which is me, I feel like it was kind of our role to bring equality and equilibrium and harmony to things instead of things being so divided and so separated. And I think it sort of brought us out of that real heavy wartime conflict. It was like, no, 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 let's not have the conflict anymore. It's not working. Like in everything, equality in the household, equality of the sexes, you know. So now it's nice that stage was sort of set as far as balance and justice goes. Now it's like, okay, Pluto and Scorpio generation seems to be coming in to like really spread that message of love and I see you and inclusion or something. I like that. Anyway,
Oh,
moving on.
that was a very good point. Like, enough of the war. That was very cool. Think of that. Yeah, it's bringing authenticity and realness to one-on-one relationships. That's Pluto in Libra, like just being real and raw about mirroring, about relating, about, just
Not being so
being
separate.
that. Yeah, again, yeah, it's about inter relationships, it's that way, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent there. But yeah, you were talking about how astrology found you. Yeah, how did you get into? So your female friends got you into the moon, working with the signs with the moon and everything. Then how did it go
Yeah.
from there? How did you find evolutionary astrology specifically?
Yeah, exactly. It just I started learning astrology, you learn about your chart and
Hmm.
those goosebumps you get, those shocks to the system, like,
How
oh
did you
God,
know?
that's
How
me.
did they know?
How how is this? I was just kept on reading and reading more and reading
Yeah,
more, but
yeah.
yeah, I'm you can call me like a modern astrologer. I'm very into the Western astrology,
Mm-hmm.
but I do take note of the traditional aspects, the traditional rulerships.
Yeah.
I feel that you need to know that.
I feel the same way. Like there is something to the traditional ways of doing things. Are you just to talk shop for a second? Do you go
Yeah.
by whole signs or do you do Placidus system?
I do Placidus, but
Okay.
I was starting to read about Porphyry, which is another weird calculation of the
Mm.
houses, but
Hmm.
Placidus just it's on for me. I mean, if
Mm-hmm.
like Mars is now in Aquarius, if
Mm-hmm.
when it hit like the second degree of Aquarius, that just my descendant was it,
Interesting.
it.
Okay.
Just it so Placidus works for me, but I really understand the system, the whole science system. There's no one way to do astrology.
It's true.
Yeah,
I
and everything is there's no false ways of doing it. Everything has an aspect of truth in every way you do astrology.
it's true. I feel like it is so representative of the cycles of living and being and like you said the seasons that
Yeah,
sometimes I feel like us trying to look at it and interpret it, we can't possibly know all of it. We can't, like, we can only comprehend part of it, I feel like that's what we're doing the best that we can with our like linear perception of time, our linear perception of the world. That yeah, I think the naysayers and the people that are really skeptical about it, they want to apply like empirical science to it, and that just doesn't work that way. It's such a soul level, multidimensional practice that we're just doing the best we can, I feel. So yeah, I don't think there's any right or wrong way. I don't think that like there's any proof or this is true or not. It really I don't know about you, but whenever I work with clients, I even tell them like just take what resonates with you. I'm only one interpretation. I'm only one person that's interpreting this for you. And I even tell people you should get multiple readings throughout your life because there's going to be different things that flow through each astrologer, that conduit, for the messages that you need to hear. So it's not an exact empirical science at all, in my opinion.
exactly. That's the same thing I do as well. I recommend other astrologers that give another point of view, the same thing we're talking about.
Mm.
It's you can learn so much from other souls, and
Mm.
We each have our own perspective on things. But going to the why I chose evolutionary astrology,
Yeah, please.
it's because you read about your ascendant and oh, Venus is in Libra and I like that sort of thing and relationships are like that, but that's just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
And when you go to the more transpersonal things, more towards the Uranian things, the Neptunian subjects, Pluto,
Pluto.
you start you start transcending exactly the ego, the basic stuff like, okay, I like this,
This
that
is
I
my
don't like that.
personality.
Yeah, that's cool and all.
Yeah.
Then get to the interpersonal, like intimacy and like relationships and synastry and how can you better yourself. But when you go to the transpersonal, I like to add more roles to Uranus and Neptune and Pluto than traditional astrology lets you do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you get to the deeper questions of who am I really? What is my purpose here?
Mm-hmm.
What are these deep unconscious desires I have and how can I bring them out in the most healthiest ways possible?
Yeah, because evolutionary astrology focuses on the soul's trajectory through this lifetime, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. It's fun. Every sacred tradition at its heart is telling us that our soul is eternal.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't born and it will never die. You cannot destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
But our ego is limited and temporal and
Yes.
material, which is cool and amazing. But if you really, really want to know from where you come from,
Mm-hmm.
what's the source that created me, and how am I aligned to that light and source and darkness, then you go towards to the real heart of the issue, and it's uncomfortable and
Mm-hmm.
then liberating.
Yes.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
you think of past lives and future lives and everything
And then it's
about
all happening at the same time. If you're me, like
exactly,
there
exactly,
is no time. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I feel like it really it puts you in that understand, not that we can ever understand it, but that place of multidimensionality even more,
Yeah,
as our singular being here. What is the focus of this singular being in this lifetime,
yes,
as a oh as a divine spark or a divine shard of the entirety, of the whole. Essentially, it's
exactly.
very, very soulful and very spiritual, and yeah, it's much deeper than just what's my personality like, or what have you. Even though that's part of it, you're absolutely right. That's totally part of it. None of it is discarded. But so how do you, um, like, if a client were to come to you, what would you be looking at, and what do you? I know that it's different for every session, but
Hmm.
in general, what would you be focusing on in a reading? Because I know evolutionary astrology usually focuses on the moon's nodes, and yes, the outer planets a bit more. Um,
Yeah,
can you talk about
yeah,
that a little bit?
yeah. If I have a client that really wants to go towards the evolutionary part of astrology, yeah, I look at Pluto
Mm.
because I'm from this evolutionary school of astrology taught by Jeffrey Wolf Green and Dane Rudyard.
I love
And
Dane Rudyard. Sorry, I just had to.
yes,
He's like
yes,
my godfather. I just love him so much. Anyway,
me
he's
too.
anyone who's just starting in astrology and like wants to really get into the he's such a poet, and he's French, of course. So it's just the way that he describes and explains astrology is so from a soul level, and from a very objective, like high view, looking
Exactly.
down level. I can't really get the words right now, but anyway, I apologize. Go ahead.
Oh, perfect. That's the same thing. When I came across Dane Rudyard, I'm like, this is
This
it.
is it. Yeah.
Is the thing. Yeah, he took the lunar cycle and made it on another level and added so much depth to each and every little transit and so much perspective that it made astrology more than 3D. It
Yeah.
added like, what is this? So yeah, I work with Sabian symbols daily, for example. I do that
Nice.
thing.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Adds to the poetry and stuff.
Totally.
But yeah, where we as revolutionary astrologers go, we look at Pluto to see what your soul wants. Where does the soul come from? From what source? What is its own trajectory? So we look at Pluto, in what sign it is, and what house it is. That's very important. And also the Pluto opposition point,
Okay.
because that's kind of the thing that we need to integrate. Because our soul comes from a safe, stable house, and the thing that it fears most is the thing that it wants most to integrate. So you see that dynamic, and then you see how that interplays with the rest of the chart, and when the moon's nodes, and it's very telling. I mean, when people hear about a stranger talking to them about their most inner
Yeah.
soul desires, it's like a bit shattering.
Yes. It's kind of like
Yeah.
bringing up Chiron. It's like you get tears,
Oh,
and that
oh yeah.
that's
Oh
like
God, yeah.
the hardest. But like I don't always bring it up in the first session, of
Yeah.
course, but when it's like really prominent, you have to, because usually it's really obvious to them anyway, and it's like a responsibility. I feel like I have to let them know, like everything is okay,
Yeah.
and you're gonna heal yourself so you can heal others, and just keep at it. It's okay. But yeah, that's I wasn't aware of the Pluto axis point, the
Yeah.
opposition point. That's interesting.
Yeah. It's the Pluto polarity point, and it's very important what sign it is,
Yeah.
because evolutionary astrology, we work with polarities. There's 6 polarities in the zodiac, like Aries, Libra, Taurus, Scorpio, Gemini, Sagittarius, and so on and so forth. So if you take every polarity and you get to the middle of everyone, and then you compromise each and every one of those polarities in your chart, I'm telling you, it will create a black hole in the middle of your chart, and you'll be sucked right into a singularity and
Yeah.
ascent or whatever.
Wow.
Telling you, there's not, you can't do more than that. Each and every dual part of you gets cool.
Yeah. Gets
Yeah.
balanced. I love that with that all that Libra energy. Um,
Yeah.
I love that, and that's kind of how I explain my understanding of opposite signs, because they're not. I don't even like calling them opposite signs. They're partner signs, because they're essentially, it's using in Hermeticism. There's the principle of polarity, and that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
how I see the the partner signs, as they are on the same axis. They're not separate and literally opposed each other. It's all about, and yeah, you're exactly like creating that equilibrium along the axis is the key. I mean, I feel like that's the key in all spiritual practice. Most people would agree with that, but
Exactly.
yeah, I think that seeing them as opposites is doing the power of that axis and that polarity a disservice, because they feed into each other. I mean, just with that example, with Aries is the self, Libra is the other in relationships, and so how does that dynamic work together? And it goes on and on. So yeah, that's a fascinating way of looking at it. Thank you.
Yeah. Spiritual practices each have the goal of us transcending duality. Like in the 3D realm, we need to go beyond that. We're here to heal duality and just understand that it's just an illusion. Separation is the ultimate illusion. And as you said it perfectly, it's, yeah, you shouldn't call it exactly opposite signs. It's very, rudimentary to call it that. They're the same sign, opposite parts, same coin, different parts of the coin, it's different sides.
Yeah.
But Cancer is Capricorn, definitely.
What do you
Definitely.
mean? What do you mean?
I mean, they both deal with security issues, and
I
they
see.
do it in contrasting different ways, but they still want the same thing,
Yes.
So it's just one sign. You just have to think of it that way. Yeah.
Exactly. Wonderful. So yeah, in a session you really focus on Pluto for the most part with your clients. Do you go into the moon's nodes, the north and south node as well? Because from what I understand, the south node is an indicator of where you're coming from, like what your past lives or what your inherent patterns are that you're working with, that you're going to have no matter what. Like, and then your north node is essentially like what the soul trajectory is moving towards. I talked about this in a previous episode with an astrologer. It's really fascinating. Like,
Yeah.
Can you talk about the nodes a little bit?
Yeah, but first, that's the moon's nodes. So let's talk a bit about the moon.
Yes.
And what does it mean? Because you work with the moon as well. The moon is an amazing, life force object.
It's the mother.
Right? Yeah. But why is the moon exalted in Taurus, for example? And why is that? It's because the moon goes round and round and round around us. So one of the more negative aspects of the moon is making us complacent in just doing the same thing over and over and over again. We are eternal beings, but having a human experience. And we came here and forgot what we had to do. It's like Narnia, the air is thick here, and you have to. Every spiritual practice has a mantra, and you repeat and you chant. If you repeat, you start to remember. That's a bad, more negative side of the moon. It helps you forget. You're like, oh no,
Yeah.
Dance the dance of illusion again and again and again. So yeah, and the moon is, if you want to know where you're coming from, what your actual role is, you have to look at the moon as well. And the phase in which you were born, it will tell a lot about where you're coming from and what you still need to be doing to release and go forward or whatever. But yeah, the moon's nodes are very interesting, and I always want to bring up the fact that, to remind other astrologers, that the south node of the moon isn't inherently all negative. It is the place where diminishment happens, so where things get, constrained, and there's lack and there's hunger there. But, it can still diminish bad things as well. It's the role you played endlessly, and you've become way too good at it. And there's like, what more do you want to do? You've played this game a million times. It's cool. It's fun. I know it can be very fun, isn't it not? But it's time to do something else. And I always like to bring up a short stories like about the real Cinderella story.
Okay.
The, Brothers Grimm,
Yeah.
the version. So in that version, Cinderella goes to that special ball, each and every night. It doesn't just happen one magical time. She goes there every night, and when it's 12 o'clock, she decides to, no, my God, I need to be back and be a slave girl again. And she does that over and over again because her south node, her role, is to be that slave girl. And the promise she made, the promise her soul kind of has, a goal that's not she's not familiar with, is being that princess. So we're a bit afraid of the North Node because it's not tangible. It's ephemeric. It's faded. You can't touch it. It's like what? It's a ghost. It vanishes, and we're not at all comfortable there. It's like, oh, what's this? But again, it's not just the North Node is all rainbows and sunshine, but it's you for you to learn to go like Cinderella to become your own, destiny. That's the place where you need to go. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny, the more that you just feel into and act like your North Node sign or in placement, things just do start kind of opening up for you and getting, not that they're easy at all, but I mean, of course there's more challenges, but it seems like more opportunities and things just sort of are coming your way and opened up to you. And
Exactly.
and they say if you really focus on your south node, and those patterns and that structure, then a lot of times things will just not happen or fall flat, or it can be its own sort of struggle, even though it's familiar, which is a weird paradox. You're like, well, I keep doing this thing that I'm good at. Why doesn't it work? And that's kind of it, because your soul is like urging you to get on the other side of the axis point, the other, because it's like opposite, it's partner signs, it's on one axis, polarity point, so it's urging you to go to the other side of the spectrum, the other sign.
Exactly. And it's like, think of the South Node, like you learned so much there. You have just an endless well of talents and teachings you can share to others. You have so much knowledge there.
And you won't lose it, you won't lose
Exactly.
it by going to the other side.
Yeah, it's good. It's like, well done. You've done that. That's amazing. And use that as a launch pad towards, going to the unknown. And you start doing that and things just click. You click and you bloom, and it's something else.
I can attest to that personally, for sure. Have you noticed that in your life?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 it is. It's very funny.
It's an incredible, I mean, this whole show, the reason I'm doing this podcast is because of feeling into that and like getting the messages that I need to, because my South Node is Capricorn and North Node and Midheaven are in Cancer conjunct. So I am just being urged to like hold space and nurture out in public, and you know be that kind of mothering, have that mothering energy with my business and out in public and everything. And it's very uncomfortable. I'm not at all like comfortable with it. I keep saying I don't even want to be doing this, but like I'm just getting these hits like you have to speak, you have to share, you have to do this. I'm being facetious, of course. I enjoy doing this, but yeah, I think I've been focusing on North Node work for about a year and a half now, and it's been really incredible. The people that come into your life, the resources and the opportunities that come in are pretty amazing. What about you?
Yeah, well, funny you mentioned that because guess where the North Node is heading, you know,
Right.
right now,
Yeah.
towards Cancer.
Yes.
So you're gonna have a nodal return. Like that's gonna be very karmic, very faded. You'll see things happening like clicking on and off. But for each and every one of us, the collective, our path forward will be through nurturing, through taking care of ourselves, through being our own mother.
Yes.
And yeah, and letting old traditions die that we don't need anymore. That's all the Capricorns. So much Capricorn is coming. It's
Yeah.
already here, but it's
Yeah.
gonna get way, way heavier.
Let's talk about that because for anyone that is not, that it doesn't isn't completely entrenched in astrology like we are, Saturn is going through Capricorn. Pluto has been in Capricorn as well. We're sort of leading up to this conjunction in 2020 that only
Yep.
happens every 19 years. And when it does,
Yes.
big things happen.
Yes.
Very intense, big things happen. Think about 19 years ago, or at this point, this is 2018, so 17 years ago. Um, and the way that I've been viewing it, the way that I've been explaining it to people from my perspective is, Capricorn does build. It is, and especially Saturn in Capricorn is very literal. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. And so that is form, it is structure, it is tradition. And I feel like all of us are really being called to build a new foundation that, yeah, now that the nodes are going to be there soon, South Node in Capricorn, North Node in Cancer, I feel like, yeah, it is calling us to nurture ourselves and mother ourselves. And I feel like the rise of, this rise of the divine feminine energy coming back into play and being integrated into society, not casting out, the the masculine, but what I would hope, like, integrate and bring balance to that. But yeah, let's you had a really interesting, so you've before you felt like, or you wanted to talk about Saturn and Capricorn actually being feminine, or, you know, of feminine energy. So I would love to hear
Hmm.
your thoughts on all of this, all of the
Yeah.
Saturn, Pluto, Capricorn business.
This is my favorite topic because I've
Mm.
been waiting for Saturn to move into Capricorn since I've been doing astrology, and I was like, oh my God, because I was born with Saturn in Capricorn. So,
So you're actually looking forward
but
to your Saturn return.
yeah, if you can call it that,
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to bring Saturn into light
Mm-hmm.
and talk about Saturn in different ways instead of just blaming Saturn,
Yeah.
cursing Saturn, making Saturn be that old fragile man, that the
Mm-hmm.
shriveled old, sickle bearer that is here to ruin your fun.
Yeah.
And but this is the most important energy at the moment and for the next 2 years. So, you know, each planet is in a different sign now, and each planet is in different rulerships and in different energies, and there's always one king or queen, one energy that is the main player
Mm-hmm.
in the chart, in the sky, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that one right now is Saturn. Saturn being the second biggest planet, the last planet you can see with your naked eye. It's far away from us, and I'm just gonna call Saturn her,
Mm-hmm.
and her orbit takes 28.5, 29 years to complete. So that it takes a long time for Saturn to move.
Mm-hmm.
And each planet has their own rulership and a temple of their own. So it took 30 years for Saturn to be back in her own temple. And
Mm.
she's back home. She's having things. She is in her ultimate power. And that's what I was talking about to other people in 2017 when Saturn was in Sagittarius.
Mm.
So Saturn crystallizes things. It makes things real. It's material. It shapes things. that part of Earth, that part of reality. We are souls, right? We're used to being one, completely one with everything. But we're here to learn individual experiences. We're here to learn separation.
Yeah.
And Saturn is that alchemical separation that you're here to learn time.
It's
You're
linear
here
time, and
exactly.
yeah, it's basically the third dimension.
Exactly. That's what Saturn does. So Saturn's modus operandi is just contraction.
Yeah.
You have your quote unquote free will to be whoever you want in this specific limited frame.
Yes.
What are you going to do about it? But when Saturn was in Sagittarius, Saturn doesn't like being in Sagittarius. That's Jupiter's sign, and there's too much happening over here. There's too much space.
It's like a
I can't
dumpster
figure
fire.
everything out. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like Saturn being in a frat party, and it's like, oh God, I just want to reach my mansion on top of that hill so I can see everyone and just focus on my, career and empire and
Yes.
whatever. But the lesson of Saturn in Sagittarius and why Capricorn follows Sagittarius is first, there's passion, there's vision,
It's
there's imagination,
philosophy.
hope, and belief. So we had 2.5 years. Saturn goes through a zodiac sign, 2.5 years. We had 2.5 years to make our hope real, to fill up our gas, our car's gas tank with all the hope, all the vision, all the desires that we'll need before stuff will get real, and we'll have to start climbing our own mountains. I was telling people back in 2017, things will get wintry,
Yeah.
It's like a January that lasts 3 years.
Yep.
So I always ask people, like, do you like January? Is it a good month for you? Do you really like January? Because it's going to be like 3 years of January.
Yeah.
So we worked on our perspective. We evolved it. We gave it new life. And now we need to implement it. That's why Capricorn follows Sagittarius. First, there's the dream. Then you manifest it.
You crystallize it into being, yeah.
It's your perspective, and then Saturn is our sole purpose. It's the role we were born to do. It rules career, and your soul career. What is the top of your own mountain? So Saturn rules the midheaven, the midpoint of the day, at 12 p.m. when the sun shines above us every day. So what do people do at like around 12 p.m.?
Yeah, what are you doing out in the world? I like how Dane Rudyard puts it, it's your cosmic office, your midheaven.
Exactly.
That's such a poetic and succinct way to put it, I feel.
Yeah, and I was just really trying to make space for Saturn to return to her temple. But as you know, Pluto is here since 2008. And Pluto is a whole different type of energy. Pluto is it's more than the collective. It's something we don't really get 100%. We just discovered Pluto in the 1930s, and we didn't even get to have its whole cycle, because it
Right.
takes 150 years for Pluto to make it. It's really far away.
Right.
But Pluto, when it entered Capricorn in 2008, I mean, we all know what happened. The market crash. Saturn was in Virgo. It's like Pluto kills. It is the ultimate destroyer. It is Kali. It's
The Aeonic
but
death god, yeah. But death
it's
for
death.
the. Yeah, death in service to transformation.
Exactly. It's not. The Saturn deals with limited death. It's like you had this end, done.
Mm-hmm.
Pluto is like something dies to be reborn again in different energy. But Pluto is here since 2008, so 10 years of just being under the surface, emanating, radiating, Capricorn. What does Capricorn represent in our collective consciousness? It's the rules we've made
Mm.
for ourselves that now need to die
The
and be transformed.
institutions, the institutions and the systems that were put into place under different, I feel, rulership of the heavens. And yeah, that's what I feel like it's about, especially because you have these two energies coming together. Saturn is form, Pluto is death and regeneration. So, on a very literal level, that's what we're seeing happen. And I don't think anyone can, disregard that that is happening. That's what's causing a lot of chaos right now in the background and right in front of our face. So, yeah, it can be, I feel like it's exciting, but it can, because I've been waiting for this my whole life. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of us have been. Those of us that are, especially in our 20s and 30s, it's like, oh, okay, finally, I make
Yep.
sense. The things I've been feeling and thinking make sense. And now these guys are coming in. Well, she and he are coming in to give us the the environment, the atmosphere in which to do that and to rebuild. I mean, again, Pluto is about regeneration, so it's about the death of what is no longer working so that we can rebuild, not just to see it
Yeah.
go away. That's the beauty of Pluto, I feel.
Yeah.
It's
Pluto
just
gives
really
us
deep.
exactly. It goes deeper and deeper and it never ends. But
Mm-hmm.
Pluto, it gives you clues like something hurts, something throbs, something is behind the surface, right? And if
Mm-hmm.
you let it fester, it goes gangrene.
Yeah.
And at that point, there's a critical point to Pluto things. It's like something spoils, like in your fridge. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, it's cool, it's cool. It's there for a day or 2 days or whatever. And then there's a point where it goes so bad, you have to throw everything out?
Yeah.
That's what Pluto does. It boils beneath the surface. And now that Saturn is back into Capricorn, it's like, oh, now we can make this real so we can cut it off,
We can
you
see
know?
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where that Capricorn female energy comes from. I mean, if you want to know what Saturn in Capricorn does, just look at the past, the last time Saturn was in Capricorn, and you'll have to go back to 1989
Mm-hmm.
to see that. And 1989 was like a really big year. And that time, there was Neptune in Capricorn and Uranus in Capricorn. So, Capricorn rules walls,
Mm-hmm.
limits, uh, just bulwarks we create in our life that help us live in this 3D world.
Mm-hmm.
And
So that was
Neptune is all.
I apologize. I was just going to
Yeah,
say, in very literal terms, the Berlin Wall came down, the Soviet
exactly.
Union fell. Yeah, so literally walls came down.
Exactly, exactly. It was Neptune in Capricorn dissolves. So when actually the conjunction between Saturn and Neptune happened, that's the exact moment the Berlin Wall came down. And the
Gotcha.
whole Eastern Bloc went down. And then Uranus in Capricorn went like, okay, cool, time for freedom. Whoop,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
And that's what's gonna happen right now, but in the Pluto way. In the you can't hide things anymore. You
Yes.
need to change. The
Mm-hmm.
system is going to crash eventually. And we don't need to fear it. Like Uranus is in Taurus, it's trining this. This is Earth
Mm-hmm.
energy. This
Mm-hmm.
is for the good of the collective.
Yeah.
When it will shift, we'll be ready with something new.
Yeah.
And we don't need to fear it. We need to acknowledge it. Governments will crash, the
Mm-hmm.
economy maybe, stuff like that, but it's all for the betterment of the whole collective. And
I was just going to say, I think the best thing to ask ourselves, because Pluto is so, it also comes from the deepest part of our unconscious psyche.
yeah,
Um, I think that's what this time is really important, why it's really important leading up to this, is to really get in touch with the deepest part of ourselves. That's the whole reason I'm doing this podcast, is like to
Exactly.
really get a firm, like our own inner firm foundation built,
Yeah.
so that when things do happen on the outside, we have that foundation from which to operate from as a sovereign being, not relying on these systems, not relying on
Yeah.
these institutions that are crumbling. Because if you do that, if you put your hope and your dreams and all of your um, operational ability as a human into institutions, it's going to be really painful. And that's how Pluto works as well. If you don't pay attention to the deepest part
Exactly.
of yourself, it hurts really bad and it causes
Exactly.
really detrimental destruction. Um, there was one other thing I wanted to say and I lost it. About, yeah, rebuilding, because everything's going to fall. Never mind, I'll edit this out. Keep going.
The thing is, with we're coming to a lot of Capricorn. There's not gonna be this much Capricorn since the year since the Middle Ages. It was like 1280.
Okay.
We didn't have this much Capricorn incoming, so we were actually born for this. It Mars retrograde just happened here a bit in Capricorn. It
Mm-hmm.
was in Aquarius, but it just went back to the last 2 degrees of Capricorn. So it's like, pay attention to this spot. The South Node is coming here, so we'll have Saturn here, Pluto here, South Node.
Yeah.
Damn. And
And
Jupiter is slowly
yeah.
coming towards this part of the sky. It's all gonna be here, and we're all gonna have to focus on where Capricorn is in our life.
Yep.
And so, the key words of what Capricorn means, authority, being the author of your own life, responsibility, having healthy emotional responses to the world around you. It's not about being cold and austere and barricading yourself from reality. It's facing opposition, facing what's coming at you. That's how Capricorn works. That's how Saturn works.
Mm-hmm.
Saturn is of the nature of oppositions. It's putting you face to face with things you can't walk away from. You can't stay in bed all day long. You have to go in outside world and confront yourself, challenge yourself. But it's all for abundance, all for being
Growth.
in, yeah, it's all answering the call to your highest purpose, the role you were meant to have. And that's why I want to talk about Saturn as the female energy, because we as astrologers, we used to, put Saturn in that, it's just a cliched template of, yeah, he's the old man that's here to make everything sour and shows you tough love.
Mm-hmm. Hard
But
work and discipline and
yeah, but as we said before, like our soul is eternal, but we aren't in this, in our body,
incarnation. Mm-hmm.
this individual we are at the moment. But you can't have love without separation. That's what,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what Saturn is trying to teach us, to love through the challenges, through separation. Separation will make you open up more.
That's that's kind of making me think that's why Saturn is exalted in Libra, because the the dynamic of relationship
Yeah,
and
Saturn loves Libra. Yep.
the yin and the yang, the black and the white, the male, the female. That's essentially in most spiritual teachings, that's what we're here to, that's why we have separation, so that we could experience love. Interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, Saturn being feminine kind of brings that dynamic in. Yeah. I'm
Well,
just
in
thinking.
ancient Roman times, yeah. In ancient Roman times, like Saturn's temples were in nature. They were
Mm,
uh, between pine trees and, evergreen trees that show, it's a natural material reflection of things never, decaying. The
yes.
leaves of an evergreen tree never go away.
Exactly. I know that being in Seattle, I love it because we have green all
Yeah,
year long. There's something so hardy about an evergreen tree. And just trees in general, like, they're always there. Like,
yeah,
way longer than we are. I don't know. I go on lots of hikes and stuff, and just when you're walking by these trees, we're the one that's moving and passing them by, but they're always there. That's like phenomenal to me for
exactly.
centuries. So yeah, that's a really great like natural um, display of that Saturnian steady energy. I love that.
We're called to have a more intimate relationship with nature, with the beauty that surrounds us, with the tastes and the smells, and being in this temporal body and just really owning the time we have here, not being in constant confrontation with, oh, I have so little time, or oh my God, I can't wait for the weekend and I want this to pass. You just
Yeah,
center in each and every moment because
presence. Yeah,
time doesn't really exist. It's
right.
just, but we're here to learn about it.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have free will in a way,
Mm-hmm.
but we have, each and every one of us, a karmic field where we can play.
Mm-hmm.
So Saturn shows us the limits. Like Saturn will force you to push yourself and you're gonna feel the limit of this, whatever it is. It's like in alchemy, the Nigrido.
Yeah.
It's like the blackest of the black.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing here for you anymore. Go back, feel your limits, own them, see the love here,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can, go up or down or whatever else you want. But another thing I want to invite people to do this time is to, because Saturn and Capricorns deals with no. The energy is like no. Can I
Mm-hmm.
have no? Can I do that? No.
Yep.
And it's not to ruin your fun. It's not to impose martial law on your life. But no is a hidden yes.
It's boundaries. Boundaries are good.
Mm-hmm. Boundary. We're here to learn that. And you have to, when life gives you that no, this doesn't work anymore. No, you should be, it's an invitation to do something else. It opens up other possibilities for your further fulfillment. That separation that brings love out. That no is like, no, you should be doing something else.
Mm-hmm. It's
Try to do it
guidance.
exactly.
Yeah. So,
So,
which is very motherly. That is very feminine energy. You know,
exactly.
like that divine. I don't like the word negativity, but it is. It's the negative kind of because the mother isn't just coddling and nurturing. The mother tells you what not to do so that you will grow into a more self sufficient being. You know, and be able to take care of yourself. I think the mother energy is actually a lot more, um, maybe a lot more of a guiding force than the father energy. So
Yeah,
interesting.
It, it's just the fact that you can do a lot of damage if you nurture too much.
Yes.
You
If you don't give
you
those boundaries. Mm-hmm.
yeah, you smother the thing you love and you're not letting it grow by itself. You have to let the child see the world for what it is and face your fears and go beyond them. That's what we're called to do. Like that's why Saturn is hard. It's not. It rules the places on the zodiac that are opposite of the lights. You know, Capricorn is opposite of Cancer, the moon's temple, and Aquarius is opposite the sun, you know? So this is where darkness is. This is like in the northern hemisphere, this is the beginning and middle part of winter. This is like, and people used to die in
Yeah.
winter time. If you
Yeah.
didn't do the work, you will not survive.
Right. Right.
Everything is bare and naked and in your face, and you're called to grow by challenging yourself, by going out of your comfort zone. It's very cliched, but there's nothing to fear anymore. If you have Saturn transits, there's always a confirmation that you've done the work and now you're ready to face the fears that you couldn't before. So
Right.
there's always this loving guidance that's well done. You've done the work. Now face your fears. You're
Yeah.
ready now.
Yeah. It's an initiation. Like your Saturn return is essentially an initiation into true adulthood, which is around
True.
your age 29, 30 essentially. I mean that's how I look at it looking back, and that's how it seems
Mm.
to be as far as most people are concerned. It's like, well, you've learned these lessons, you've learned who you are. Okay, now go forth and build and do and create your own boundaries even. I think that
Yeah,
it's kind of like an initiation into, okay, you're able to start building yourself now.
right
Maybe.
on.
Maybe. That's
And
what's coming to me anyway.
if that's not love, I don't know what is. That is nurturing. That's taking
Yeah.
care. It's not
Exactly.
tough love, it's love. And that's what we're all called to do with so much Capricorn. And the other thing is, why do we climb mountains? What's success for us? Being up that mountain so we can look down upon others, or wa- walking there to go beyond what your limits are and see the world on a completely higher plane and share that experience with others. Share that love you've sensed there. We each have our own mountain to climb. Let's help each other by inspiring each other. You know, that negative female internal pressure we feel that's creating diamonds in us, where we can all inspire each other for, the collective betterment. If we push ourselves, if we grit our teeth and face each and every obstacle with love, not malice. Obstacles are given to us now because we're ready, and it's not because, oh, you suck and you're
Right.
weak, whatever.
No, it's beautiful. I love how I just wanted to pause. I love how you said that. And yeah, I feel like each of us is doing our own singular journey, internal journey, but it also involves, like when you go on a hike with friends, when you're climbing, literally climbing that mountain with friends, you're each going through your own thing, your own sort of like challenge of getting up this mountain, but you're also helping each other. And then
Yeah,
at the end, you get the reward of, having a whole different vantage point, and you're changed. You're totally changed by it every time. And it takes a while. I think that that's really important about this time too. Saturn is slow. It's step by step by step by step by step. It's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be next month. But we're going to look back in, 2021, 2025, and we're going to see the entire trajectory of how we've been building. It's like building a foundation brick by brick, brick by brick. You don't notice it at the time because it's so in your face and you're so close to it, but um, yeah, the achievement and what you build at the end is long lasting, and it stands the test of time. That's what Capricorn teaches us as well. That's what that energy is about as well, building something that will last, you know, not not the fire of Sagittarius or
Yeah.
or of Aries or what have you that burns out. It's like, no, this is going to be here for a long time. So that's why this I feel like this time is really about tearing down old structures and building them piece by piece as we go along. And
Yeah.
yeah, just to this fall is really interesting as well. We're going to be diving into relationship dynamics with Venus in Scorpio and Venus in retrograde in Scorpio. And we're at the point right now where we're recording the end of Virgo season. We're about to go into the autumnal equinox and Libra season, which is also, of course, about relationships. So this is a fall that is definitely about building and processing relationship dynamics and learning to work together. So I know you wanted to talk about this. What's your take on what we're in for?
We're going towards a complete reset in relationships because this last retrograde, this upcoming retrograde of Venus and Scorpio is the last major planetary retrograde in this part of the sky. And if you know that dance Venus does with Earth and Sun, that flower Venus does,
Yes.
the five-pointed pentagram, we're at one of those legs of the five-pointed star, and Venus had another retrograde here in Scorpio back in 2010, October again. It's nearly the same day. But now, think about what Scorpio has been through, this part of the sky. Saturn was here doing 3 retrogrades in 2012, really materializing our deepest fears and our deepest secrets and relationship dynamics where we've been manipulated, where we manipulated, Scorpio stuff.
Yeah.
Jupiter is here at the moment to help heal it. Mars had a retrograde here back in 2016. We've all gone through a lot of reconstruction in Scorpio. So this last retrograde of Venus in Scorpio is like, think of the past 8 years in relationships, in self-confidence, in your magnetism, your female side. And think of all those moments where you lost power here, where you felt neglected, abandoned, on the losing side. And now with Jupiter there, it's time to open the closets, bring out all the skeletons. Oh, I thought I was free of the skeleton. And it's like, no, you're not. But now you can have a drink with it.
Yeah. Because Jupiter's there and he wants to have a good time. Yeah.
there's no need to fear it anymore. But if we want new relationship dynamics that are authentic, that are like no strings attached, no BS attached, just raw, truthful, intimate, we need to look at the past again, one final time, because it's very rare to have Mars retrograde and Venus retrograde in the same year.
Yeah.
I mean, Mars is just coming out of shadow. It's like at 2 degrees of Aquarius, and Venus just went into shadow. So they're both that's extremely rare.
Right.
So this year is about that relationship dynamics, because if we want to build that Capricorn new temple purpose in our life, we will need the right people aligned to us. So it was funny, like at the day Venus entered shadow, I'm very Venusian. It's like how people are connected to the moon, I'm connected to Venus. I feel her trance like that. But that same day, my inbox went just full from clients and friends saying like, oh, I think I found the love of my life now. Oh, that person is back. What does it mean? I'm sorry to bother you, Ollie, but can you say, can you look at synastry? And it's like, oh God, it's happening.
It's
It's
starting.
starting. It's starting. It's not even retrograded. It's just shadow. It's like, oh God, it's no.
Yep.
The thing is, the same issues we're finding now, we won't get a clear answer until after mid-November.
Mm-hmm.
And Venus will station retrograde at the 10th degree of Scorpio, and then it will go back to the 25th degree of Libra.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a complete clear of all karmic past dynamics of the last 8 years. You will be visited by maybe people from,
Heck,
the last 80 years.
yep.
And it's happening.
Exes
It's
will come
starting
into
right
your
now.
life. Yeah,
It's
totally.
really funny. It's happening. I'm like, oh, whoa. I thought
Yeah.
this has been done with. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
no, it is not really. But it's here to make you be more aligned. I mean, it's Scorpio, so it's very sexual, but it's like that
It's
center,
passion
yeah,
and
that raw,
very, very deep, deep, like subconscious part of yourself that interacts with others and has intimacy,
yes,
right? It's that very murky place where there's this admixture of your essence with another person's, i.e., intimacy. And it's like there are no words. That's kind of Scorpio too. Like there really are no words. It's all feelings, and it's all super super deep, dark feelings even. But there's
yeah,
love there. There is passion in that place as well. It's not just negative, dark feelings. But they can be cathartic. That's what Scorpio loves too. Scorpio
yeah,
is the psychiatrist, the psychoanalyst. It's digging into the depths of our feelings so that and it's in modern astrology ruled by Pluto, so it's very Plutonian, like we've already said. It's getting into those deep dark places because it knows that there's gold and diamonds down there, and the only way to get the gold and diamonds is to work with that energy and to transmute it, to transform it. That's why the doors are going to be thrown open. It's like, okay, yeah, just like you said, remember this thing that hurt, you thought you put it away. It's not to bring it up so that we will suffer more or to punish us more or to make us sad. If it does, it's in the name of bringing that to light and transforming it so that we can go forward with our in our current relationships, so that we won't be carrying this baggage with us into these new relationships, that we all have. um, I'm actually looking forward to. I think it's going to be pretty intense. I'm hoping it'll be better than the Venus retrograde in Aries. That was really difficult, I'm not going to lie. That was really hard.
yeah. I mean, poor Venus is having all these retrogrades in signs she's not comfortable in. I mean, Aries
Right.
is her detriment, and Scorpio, again, another detrimental sign. It's her, secret lover's Mars sign. And it's like, Scorpio is like if you pick a rock from outside and then you turn it over and it's like all those bugs and worms and ugh.
Yeah.
Venus doesn't want to do with that. It's just like nice
Yeah.
and clean and pretty jewels. And I
In
don't,
the
do I,
garden, and yeah.
this space stinks. And it's like, oh, it's not dirty and it's not clean. And it's very intense. It's very, very intense.
But
And,
the it's necessary. It's very
but
necessary work to do.
I think Venus in Scorpio is very beautiful, though. There's a certain rawness about that magnetism that I find very interesting. Like, but that's the thing. I mean, I don't really like Venus retrogrades, to be honest, but this one I think we're all ready for because
Yeah.
we're at that point in our lives where we don't have the patience or time to hide behind what we really want.
Yes.
So this is the time to find the people that are truly aligned with every crazy thing that's deep inside of you, you know?
Yes.
And
I
after
love
this
that.
point, yeah, exactly. After this point, there's no bullshitting around. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
it's about I want this. It's aligned to who I truly am. I would love to share it with you. Are you on the same page?
If not, no big deal. Great. Not taken
Cool.
personally. Moving
Cool.
on. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh,
That's what
wow.
it's gonna be about. So that's why people are gonna be very ready to just go full on with new relationships now. It's like, oh, I know this is different from the last time. No, 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 it's gonna be amazing. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. You things will get clearer now. It doesn't have to mean that all relationships will die, you know. Some relationships after this Venus retrograde can actually become stronger, better, change its status. But in each long-term relationship, short-term relationship, whatever, people will be called to just say, okay, cool, do that. I'm this is exactly what I want. What do we want to do
Yeah.
going forward? It's gonna be very cleansing. It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah. Very like just radical authenticity and honesty. Yeah. I think it's really key for us individually to know that this is going on and to again not take things personally, not to worry that things are always going to be like that. That's what any Venus retrograde is about, just to be aware that these energies are happening for the greater good and that they're necessary. And also, if you're in a long-term relationship, bring it up with your partner that this is energy that's going on so that both of you are on the same page and understand that if things come up at this time, it's so that you can look at them. It's so that you can evaluate and move forward instead of, again, like just keeping it under, keeping it hidden or whatever. I think it's going to be a really cleansing and nourishing time as well. I mean, it's
Exactly.
water. It's water. It's a great feeling. It's not fire. It's gonna be like nourishing no matter what. Can you tell I have no fire in my chart? Because I'm just like, no fire.
No.
It
Well,
hurts.
maybe you like the energy now. There's no fire anywhere on the sky at the moment.
I love it. I'm okay with it right now. There's maybe a little too much earth because I have a lot of air,
Yeah.
but that's okay. But yeah, and the fact that, I mean, Venus and Scorpio is the macabre, and it's, goth, and it's the darkness. That's what's really fun about Scorpio too. So it's like seasonably appropriate that it's happening around Halloween when we're all kind of in that like thinner veils between the worlds. I mean, I think this will be great for the occult and like I
Mhm.
feel like even your relationship with magic, with the occult, with the other side, the intangible realm. This would be great for, spiritual practice and magic to take. I mean, be careful how you work with it, everyone,
Yeah.
but yeah, the fact that Venus is there lends this real beautification overtone to those darker areas, and I think more people can kind of for people that aren't as predisposed to be a little on the goth or dark side of life. I think that it'll kind of illuminate or bring those darker macabre sides of life into sort of a more beautiful lens for most people, which is good. You got to have the dark with the light.
Exactly. Well
So
said. It's like, yeah, I didn't think of that much, to be honest. It's a very good time to rehash the connection you have with the unseen, with the deeper behind the veil forces, your spirit guides, you know? You talk with your spirit guides, like, what do you want, buddies?
yeah,
There's
what are we
some
doing
spirit
here?
guides that are more trickstery. They
Uh
want
huh.
some, you know,
Yep.
yeah, do your bad things. It's cool. I like that. But, not anymore, dude. Not anymore. We've been through this. We've been through this. Like, stop. Let's do different. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, we have gone over quite a lot of material. This has been really awesome. I think we're probably at a good point to wrap it up if that's all right with you.
Of course, of
This
course.
has been very rich and fertile and entertaining. So, Ollie, if people want to get a reading with you, if they need that relationship reading to fill up your inbox again, how can they get in touch with you?
Currently, they can be in touch with me through my Instagram page, with all the Capricorn, and I'm still waiting for Uranus to head back into Taurus in March next year to
Oh,
really
wow.
start building my astrology business, like
Mm-hmm. That's good.
making my own website, the
Mm-hmm.
blog, certificates, and some YouTube vids, maybe
I think you
Patron,
should.
whatever. But
Yeah.
I will start making a platform. But at the moment, just reach out to my on my Instagram. That's how I met all the amazing souls throughout the
Mm-hmm.
world and healers that I've had the blessing to meet, as with you. So yeah, Instagram all day, all night. Yeah, at Ovdrome.
Perfect. And the link will be in the show notes, of course. And yeah, have a great fall through the darkness. Nice autumn through the darkness with our relationships. And we'll talk soon, Ollie. Thank you.
Ooh, smooth sailing. It's been a pleasure.
I hope you've enjoyed what Ollie and I discussed today. Be sure and give him a visit on Instagram for in-depth astrology forecasts and personal readings at Ovdrone. That's Ovdrone. And of course, the link will be in the show notes. For more insightful conversations like this with benevolent beings doing good work in the world, be sure and subscribe in your favorite podcast app. And also remember to visit tristadedman.com and click podcast to get all the show notes and subscribe to the mailing list to get every transmission straight to your inbox. As always, take care out there, guys.